Welcome back. Not every man is ready for what you're about to hear, but if you're still listening, then maybe you're one of the few. The world wants you to believe that the clock has run out, that past 50 you become invisible, replaceable, powerless. But here we say different, because what the world calls the end, we call the beginning of your final transformation, not into someone new, but into someone true. So take a breath. This isn't just a message, it's a reckoning, a return to the man you were meant to become. Number 1. Why a man over 50 is more dangerous than ever before. Welcome back. They say age softens a man, that the older he gets, the more he fades, that his fire dims, his relevance wanes, and his presence turns into nothing more than background noise in a world racing toward youth. But that's not your story, not if you understand the truth. You see, there's a lie that's been repeated so often it's become invisible. A lie whispered by society, by the media, by even the people closest to you, that after 50, it's all downhill. You feel it in the way younger colleagues interrupt your sentences, in how doctors shift their language from growth to maintenance, in how women glance past you until they feel the weight of your silence. But beneath that surface, something deeper is taking shape, not decay, not decline, but transformation. Because after 50, a man no longer has to pretend. He's not trying to prove anything, not trying to impress anyone, not caught in the exhausting loop of self-comparison. And that makes him dangerous, because power doesn't scream, it waits. Real power doesn't chase, it chooses. The younger man seeks approval. He wears his watch like a weapon, his words like currency, his muscles like armor. But you wear your experience like a second skin, soft to the eye but indestructible to the touch. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." And at 50, for the first time, you're truly alive, not distracted by noise, not seduced by speed, but grounded in something deeper, clarity. You've buried enough dreams, seen enough betrayal, loved and lost, succeeded and failed, and yet you're still here. Still standing, still sovereign, still silent in the face of chaos, because you've learned the truth. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be heard. There's a gravity to you now, one that doesn't come from charm or wealth, but from pain that's been purified into wisdom. While others still chase validation, you've become the storm that doesn't announce itself, it just arrives. And when it does, everything changes. That's why the world doesn't know what to do with men like you. Men who can't be bought with flattery. Men who don't flinch under pressure. Men who aren't impressed by chaos or beauty or noise. The world expects you to shrink, to soften, to surrender your edge. But here's the truth. This is your sharpening season, not your softening. This is the time to become your final form, not the echo of a younger self, but the embodiment of something deeper, stronger, and unshakable. You don't need six-pack abs, you need discipline. You don't need approval, you need presence. You don't need to chase, you need to stand. Because when you do, you become unforgettable. And here's the part most will never understand. Your power is not in what you say, it's in what you no longer feel the need to explain. You've been judged, dismissed, underestimated, but that was your training, that was the forge. And now you're the flame. So if you've ever looked in the mirror and wondered if it's too late, if the best of you has passed, let this be the moment you bury that lie forever. Because now you are more precise, more measured, more focused, and far more dangerous than you've ever been. You are not past your prime, you are entering it. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And now you know freedom isn't about being admired, it's about being untouchable, unshakable, and unimpressed by the trivial. This is the chapter where you don't ask the world for a seat. You bring your own chair, carve your own path, and burn your own legacy into stone. You are not done. You are just getting started. Now speak out and comment below, "I'm not done," because the second half of your life will be the most powerful part of your story. Number 2, the magnetic silence of the mature man. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of something deeper, something that speaks louder than words ever could. Welcome back. When you were younger, the world taught you that to be seen, you had to speak. To be desired, you had to chase. To be respected, you had to raise your voice. But now you understand that the opposite is true. The most powerful man in the room is rarely the one talking the most. He is the one listening, observing, and holding back the storm inside him with a gaze that cuts deeper than any shout ever could. This is the art of masculine stillness, a stillness that is not passive but deliberate, not timid but calculating, not indifferent but razor-focused. There's a quiet that only comes with age, not the quiet of defeat but of total command. A young man may command attention with noise, but a mature man commands presence with gravity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." That's the silence of a man who no longer reacts because he's chosen to respond. A man who no longer wastes his breath on proving his worth because his very presence proves it. You see, when a younger man enters a room, he searches for validation. He scans for eyes, seeks approval, adjusts his tone, performs his part. But when you walk in, you bring the room into alignment. Not because of what you say, but because of who you are. People slow down when you're near. Women glance and hold their breath longer than they expected. Men lower their voices or straighten their postures, not because they fear you, but because they sense something different, something controlled, something sacred. You are no longer the flame that dances for attention. You are the fire that warms or burns depending on how it's approached. This is the gravity of masculine stillness. You don't need to raise your voice when your stillness speaks for you. Your calm is unsettling to the uncentered. Your patience is intimidating to the impulsive. Your focus is threatening to the distracted. And that's exactly why silence attracts attention. Because in a noisy world, the man who does not speak is the one who forces others to listen. But here's the secret. That silence must be earned. It is not a mask for insecurity. It is the expression of inner mastery. You earn it by disciplining your tongue, by watching more than you interrupt, by letting your actions tell the story that your ego once needed your voice to narrate. The silence of the mature man is not empty, it is full. Full of lessons, full of restraint, full of history scars and wisdom too expensive to be shared carelessly, and the effect irresistible. Because women don't chase noise, they chase mystery. And nothing is more mysterious than a man who has nothing to prove. So sit still, speak less, and watch how your presence begins to bend the room around your stillness. You are no longer chasing attraction, you are the attraction. Now speak out and comment below. My silence is strength, because when you stop explaining yourself, the world starts listening. Number 3, the unapologetic masculinity of the Stoic man. Welcome back. You've arrived at an age where the world expects you to step aside, to lower your voice, to soften your edge, to blend in. But you did not come this far just to disappear. You've earned your lines, your scars, your silences. And if you carry them well, they do not diminish you, they define you. Society today has become deeply uncomfortable with unapologetic masculinity. It has traded strength for softness, clarity for confusion, leadership for compliance. They'll say things like, "You need to adapt," or worse, "That kind of man is outdated." But the truth is, a man who knows who he is, a man who doesn't apologize for his presence, a man who walks into a room with stillness, and doesn't need to prove himself through noise or performance, that man becomes the gravitational center of every room he enters. Let's be clear, this is not about arrogance, this is not about domination. This is about embodied presence, the kind that doesn't shout but is always heard. Epictetus once said, "Seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves." This applies to masculinity just as much as it does to virtue. The good, the noble, the worthy, it is already within you. It does not need to be softened. It needs to be remembered. You are not here to please everyone. You are not here to be approved by the crowd. You are not here to win the affection of those who cannot comprehend the weight you carry. You are here to be solid, to be still, to be unshakable. A man at 50 plus has no business being hesitant in his presence. You've seen too much. You've learned the price of faking it, and now your greatest asset is your refusal to bend. Think of the mountain. It does not move. It does not compete. It does not ask for validation, but everything around it orients itself in relation to it. That is what it means to embody masculine gravity. When you walk into a spacewalk like the man who's seen storms and stood through them, when you speak with the quiet confidence of one who no longer chases applause. And when you love from a place of wholeness, not need. Because masculinity does not seek permission to exist. It does not shrink to avoid offending. It does not apologize for its nature. It does not twist itself to be palatable. It is. Men who reach this level of self-possession are rare, not because it's impossible, but because most never make it past the need to be liked. They still chase nods from strangers, still bend when pressure arrives, still bite their tongue to be acceptable. But that's not for you anymore. You are not here to be acceptable. You are here to be authentic, and authenticity by its nature will disturb the inauthentic. Let it. That's not your problem to solve. Your responsibility now is to show other men what it looks like to walk in strength without apology, to become the example of calm, grounded, resilient masculinity in a world addicted to noise and validation. So what does this look like in practice? It means you no longer explain your choices unless you choose to. It means you take up space physically, emotionally, spiritually without guilt. It means your no becomes sacred. It means you stop diluting your voice to avoid discomfort. And most importantly, it means you lead, even when you're the only one walking in that direction. Women, whether they admit it or not, feel this. Not the bravado, not the flash, but the steadiness. The kind of presence that makes them exhale. Because deep down, every feminine soul craves one thing, a man she cannot move. Not because he is rigid, but because he is rooted. And men, the younger ones, will test you. They'll try to rattle you, challenge your relevance, question your wisdom. Let them. Because what you carry is not found in books or podcasts or dating apps. It's forged in loss, sharpened by solitude, refined in years of holding your ground when it would have been easier to run. This world does not need another agreeable man. It needs you, the man who remembers his weight, the man who doesn't smile to be liked, who doesn't apologize for having standards, who doesn't shrink when his voice gets too deep for the room. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The Stoic man embodies this. He does not react to the noise. He listens. He decides. And when he speaks, the room changes temperature. So don't run from your gravity. Embrace it, own it, live it. Because when a man stands fully in his masculine truth, he doesn't need to move others. The world moves around him. Now speak out and comment below. I stand firm. No apology needed. Because the world doesn't need you quieter. It needs you unshakable. Number 4. Rebuilding discipline to reach your prime. Welcome back. There is a lie men have been sold, that your prime is behind you, that discipline is for the young, that after 50 you should slow down, relax, coast. But let's make something clear: you were not born to retire into irrelevance. You were born to rise even when others fall. You were born to reclaim your fire, not bury it under comfort. Because discipline is not a phase. It is the forge through which the Stoic man becomes unbreakable. In your 20s and 30s, you chased goals with intensity. You tried to prove something to your father, to society, to women, to yourself. But now you don't need to prove anything. You need to build something. And the only way to build it is through daily, deliberate, disciplined action. Kai luat luk nai kong kon la mot loat kwai takhak. It's not about punishing yourself. It's about honoring yourself. It's a sacred architecture of your soul, a cathedral of thought, movement, focus, and presence. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That begins in the morning, when you rise early, not because someone told you to, but because the day deserves your presence. You sit with your thoughts. You write. You breathe. You listen not to the news or the noise, but to yourself. Then you move, not to impress, not to flex, but to feel alive, to keep your temples strong, to carry your years with pride, not pain. A cold shower, a long walk, a calm breakfast, a refusal to scroll through chaos before claiming your own center. Discipline is not about force, it's about respect. You respect your time, you respect your body, you respect the energy you allow into your space. And in doing so, you teach the world how to treat you. Let's get even more real. Your 50s, 60s, 70s. These are not the years to coast. These are the years to clarify, to cut away distractions, to build a legacy with your very breath. Think of it this way. A man in his 30s lifts weights to grow muscle. But a man over 50, he lifts to defy entropy, to carry grandchildren on his shoulders, to hold the weight of wisdom with a spine that still stands tall. A younger man may fast to lose fat. You fast to reclaim mastery over appetite, to prove to yourself, I am not ruled by cravings, I choose. A younger man may journal to discover who he is. You journal to refine who you've become and to leave a map for others. This is what discipline becomes when you grow into yourself. Not a performance, but a practice. And here's the catch. No one will clap for you. You won't get likes or views or followers for doing the boring, consistent, powerful things. And that's why it works. Because discipline after 50 is not about being seen. It's about becoming centered. You become the man who can go days without gossip, weeks without distraction, months without drifting from his mission. You become the man who shows up every day, not to impress, but to build. You build your strength. You build your clarity. You build your soul. And slowly the world around you bends in response. Because real power isn't in how much you lift. It's in how still you remain when life tries to pull you off course. Discipline is the foundation of masculine elegance, not the polished kind, but the weathered, resilient stone and fire kind. And when you live this way, you don't need to scream. Your life becomes the sermon. Your habits become the armor. Your walk becomes the message. So let the young chase trends. Let them ride waves. You build shores where others come to rest. When the storm finally breaks them, you are not behind. You are just beginning if you choose to begin again. Now speak out and comment below. I build myself daily. I am not done. Because you are not chasing youth. You are becoming timeless. Number 5. From chasing women to attracting them. There comes a time in a man's life when the chase becomes hollow. You've pursued beauty. You've endured silence. You've tried the games, the gifts, the good intentions. And now, in the stillness of your 5th decade, a truth begins to surface that what you seek was never meant to be chased. It was meant to be drawn in by the gravity of the man you've become. See, men in their 20s and 30s are taught to win her over. Say the right thing, wear the right clothes, play the role. But now you've lived long enough to know the more you reach, the more she retreats. Because nothing repels the feminine faster than need, and nothing calls it forth more deeply than wholeness. Here's the shift. You are no longer the man trying to be enough for her. You are the man who already is and simply watches who can see it. The chase ends not because you've grown bitter, it ends because you've grown full, and fullness is magnetic. A man over 50 living in truth with presence, purpose, and a steady heartbeat, he becomes a force of nature, not a storm, but a mountain. And the feminine is drawn to that mountain, not because he demands it, but because he anchors it. Let's be practical. You don't need to play young. You don't need to compete with the noise. You need to own your silence. Wear your experience like a tailored coat. Let the silver in your hair speak of fires endured and wisdom kept. Speak slower, walk deeper, look longer, not to impress, but because there's nothing in you left to prove. And when you do, the right women will feel it. Not the ones who chase thrills or status, but the ones who crave substance, calm, and conviction. This is what women long for but rarely articulate. A man who is not swayed by attention, a man who is not seeking, a man who already has himself. And when she feels that she relaxes, she softens. Because in your presence, she is no longer performing, she is returning to her own feminine essence. But here's where most men fall. They fear being alone, so they settle, they chase, they perform, and in doing so, they leak their power. Don't do that. Be the man who walks alone rather than beg for company. Be the man who holds silence instead of forcing connection. Be the man who knows that true intimacy is not taken, it is offered by choice, not pressure. And if no woman comes, you are still whole. Because the goal isn't to attract every woman. The goal is to attract the one who sees you clearly. And that only happens when you are willing to be invisible to the rest. Let women wonder, let them ask, who is this man who doesn't need me but still sees me? That is the paradox of masculine allure, and it can only be embodied when you stop performing and start being, Epictetus said. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. You cannot control her attention, but you can master your presence, and the man who does will never chase again. He draws in what aligns, and lets go of all that doesn't without flinch, without regret. Now speak out and comment below. I attract by being whole, I do not chase. Because when you are full, she comes not to complete you, but to dance with the fire you already carry. Number 6, activating legacy mode, from survival to significance. Welcome to the final form. This is not about proving yourself anymore, it's about leaving something behind that outlives you. When a man crosses 50, the race against time shifts. It's no longer about the money, the sex, or the applause. It's about impact. It's about the echo of your life when your voice goes quiet. The way your son stands taller because of how you stood. The way a younger man remembers how you responded to challenge. The woman who said, "He didn't just speak, he showed me." This is legacy mode. It's not a title, not a net worth, not an inheritance. It's a code lived so deeply that others carry it forward. Legacy means asking yourself, if I disappeared tomorrow, would the world feel the weight of my absence? Not because you were famous, but because you were unshakable. Because you showed up where it mattered most, consistently, silently, with fire behind your eyes. Stoicism teaches that the highest good is virtue, and virtue is not proclaimed, it is embodied. You become a legacy not when you try to impress, but when you quietly uphold your standard in a world that keeps falling. You become a legacy when the men around you stop joking and start listening. When the room pauses, when you speak not because you're loud, but because your words carry the weight of 1,000 days lived in discipline. Let's talk action. Legacy begins in small habits. The morning you rise to train even when no one watches. The time you teach your grandson to hold his ground with grace. The moment you face loss without bitterness. It continues with how you treat strangers, how you lead in crisis, how you love without possession, how you honor the life you've been given. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." At 50 plus, you're no longer reacting. You are building temples with your silence and shaping generations with your steadiness. Every choice you make is either noise or legacy. And here's the beauty. You don't need everyone to remember your name. You only need one person to say, "Because of him, I walk differently." This is the sacred weight of being a man in his later years. Not shrinking, not fading, but sharpening until your very presence teaches without effort. You become a living philosophy, a stoic in motion, a protector of order in a world unraveling. And when you embrace this role, you don't just age, you ascend. You do not fear being forgotten because you know your impact never needed a stage. So as we close, here is the final call. Step into legacy mode. Speak less, live sharper, mentor deeper, love without attachment, stand with weight. You are not just a man. You are the last line of clarity in a confused world. Now comment below, "I live for legacy, not for noise." Because from this moment on, you no longer just exist, you echo. If you've made it this far, then you know this wasn't just content. It was a call, a mirror, a line in the sand. Because after 50, you don't chase, you choose. You don't prove, you embody, and you don't fade. You forge legacy. This is not the time to soften. It's the time to sharpen your edges and walk with unshakable weight. So don't just nod and scroll on. Make it clear. Now speak out and comment below. "I'm not done." And every man who reads it will know exactly what that means. Until next time, stand tall, stay sharp, and walk like the storm that teaches silence.